In a galaxy so vast in scope, the presence of countless worlds and stars are the essential factor for infinite destinies and stories to converge in an endless struggle between light and darkness. Through thousands of years, this vastness has witnessed the rise of legendary heroes and fearsome villains, whose names would cause reverence or fear in the most remote corners of space. Epic battles have shaken the foundations of entire planets, while silent betrayals have altered the course of empires. In every corner of this galaxy, there are stories yet to be told, ancient secrets waiting to be revealed, and mysterious forces that transcend mortal understanding. It all begins with the first event recorded in galactic history, where a fragment of the poem called The Word of Verda tells the story of the battle for Notron, a planet that in the future would be known as Cursant, where two groups of warriors would fight for control of the place and be able to claim it as their home. On one hand, the Cell Warriors, a sentient species believed to be the ancestors of humans. And on the other hand, their enemies, the Tongue, the ancestors of what in the future would be known as one of the best warriors in the galaxy, the Mandalorians. Thousands of years after the events of Notron, two young rangers of the Jedi Order, Lanori Brock and Hawk Ryu, are sent by the Council to resolve a conflict between the Sane Mining and its workers, with the misfortune that the daughter of the company's owner had been kidnapped. After their mission on the moon Serist, the paths of the two rangers would separate. On the one hand, Lanori Brock would be entrusted with a vital mission for their existence of the Titan system, her home, a mission that would lead her to meet ghosts from her past. Meanwhile, in the heart of the Jedi Order, Titan, Hawk Ryu would return with his companions, a large group of faithful Jedi scholars of the Force. The Jedi Order would be the predecessor of the Jedi Order, where unlike the latter, the Jedi accepted both the light side and the dark side of the Force. However, despite the latter, the darkness would come to them in the form of an emissary, an alien, an outsider who wasn't part of the Titan system, a man who had come from beyond the system where the Jedi's understanding didn't reach, a Force Hound named Zesh. Intergalactic travel during this time in history wasn't possible, so for the Jedi, travel within their space, the Titan system, was totally normal. However, the arrival of these mysterious men from beyond the system left all the Jedi baffled, and even more so when they saw that Zesh could use the Force, just like them. The presence of this mysterious figure started different conflicts within the Order. However, this was only the beginning of something worse. Zesh was a simple emissary, a powerful warrior, but one who served an infinitely greater power, one of the greatest forces the galaxy had ever seen, the Rakata. The Jedi, since their beginnings, had faced various threats, but never one like the Rakata. The invaders were superior for the Jedi in every way, even possessing weapons never before seen by the Jedi, who with their Force-imbued blades were no match for the Rakata's Force Sabers. However, despite being a nearly unstoppable power, their end was already written. The violent war that engulfed the Jedi was an event that changed galactic history forever in every way. One of the most important being in the technological field, as the Rakata would leave their advanced technology in the hands of their enemies, putting an end to one of the most impressive reigns in all of history, the infinite empire of the Rakata. After the war where the Jedi were involved, the consequences that had to be paid were very expensive. The damage done to the Order after the conflict was so great that the corruption within its ranks was irreparable to the point of having internal conflicts in an organization as long-lived as the Jedi. Some members began to favor the light side, while others leaned toward the dark side. This division led to a civil war known as the Force Wars, the first conflict where the users of the light side faced those of the dark side. After the Force Wars, various followers of the light side, masters, decided to abandon the philosophy of what for them was already a corrupt Jedi Order. The solution was clear: restructure everything based on a new order focused on the light side of the Force, thus giving way to the founding of the Jedi Order. History is reserved only for those emblematic figures who break all possible paradigms, and without a doubt, Xim the Despot was one of them. A force rarely seen in the galaxy, Xim was a powerful conqueror from the kingdom of Kron in the Time Cluster. A born leader, he rapidly expanded his empire through military conquest, eventually controlling a vast territory that spanned much of the Outer Rim, and his kingdom stretched to the borders of hot space. Known for his cruelty and ambition, Xim amassed great wealth and power. He developed advanced technologies for his time, but his most iconic chapter was his conflicts against the Hutts in the series of battles known as the Xim Wars. Various figures with airs of grandeur had sporadically emerged throughout space, claiming control of different galactic areas, causing destruction and misfortune. In the absence of authority, it was decided to start the Galactic Republic, an intergalactic government that united thousands of star systems under a central power, promoting peace, trade, and cooperation between various worlds and species throughout much of the known galaxy. Also in this period, shortly before its end, Duro and Corellian scientists, inspired by the technology left behind by the Rakata, developed the modern hyperdrive. This was one of the most important technological advances in all of history, as it enabled intergalactic travel, connecting distant worlds and laying the groundwork for the expansion of the Republic. The discovery of the hyperdrive revolutionized galactic trade and exploration, facilitating the unification of various star systems under the banner of the newly formed Republic. Up to this point, the new Jedi Order was a young organization trying to learn from its past mistakes, aligning all the Jedi with a new dogma, leading them to a path without temptation and in accordance with the ideology of the Jedi Code. However, one individual within the ranks of the Order, Xandor, disagreed with the new rules imposed and led a group of followers who rejected the orthodox teachings of the Order. This gave rise to the First Great Schism, a bloody and heartless conflict that pitted Jedi brothers and sisters against each other, resulting in a war between Jedi of the Order against the followers of Xandor, called the Legions of Leto. As the new governing body of justice and peace in a part of the galaxy, the Galactic Republic would face its first enemies to challenge it. After more than 500 years of expansion, the Republic would face first against the honorable union of the Sever and Tion. The war began when Tion attempted to expand into the galactic core. It was a war that would take centuries to come to fruition. However, the longevity of the war against Tion wouldn't compare to that which the Republic later faced against Alsakan. The Alsakan Conflicts were a series of intermittent wars for control and influence over all aspects of specific regions of the galaxy. These conflicts lasted for nearly 14,000 years, significantly influencing the politics and technological development of the Republic. The threats that the new Republic regime faced were not limited to well-trained armies. During its expansion, winged space creatures called Duinuogwuin would attack the heart of the Republic, cursed, leading to a clash between the Republic and the Star Dragons. During this period, not everything was war against the Republic. Far from its jurisdiction, on the planet Ando, a civil war would break out between the three main races of the planet. Conflicts wouldn't be characteristic only of this galaxy. Outside of this area, in the Yuuzhan Vong galaxy, a conflict would develop that pitted two powerful leaders against each other, Bogan and Steng, giving birth to one of the most devastating war tactics ever in existence, Bogan's Core. After the conclusion of this conflict, the most important result of all was the unification of all the Yuuzhan Vong in search of more territory to conquer, having aspiration not only intergalactic but extragalactic. The Pius Dea Crusades were a dark period in the history of the Galactic Republic. The Pius Dea cult, to control of the Republic through the Chancellor in office. And at the behest of this totally biased and blinded political figure, a series of crusades against non-human species was initiated, establishing a human-centric theocracy. The consequences of this period were diverse, affecting galactic relations for millennia. The Kumauri Empire was a significant power in the Outer Rim. It was noted for its advanced technology, especially in starship construction. Its conflict with the Galactic Republic led to innovations in warship design. A conflict involving the Herglic species. Although specific details are scarce in official sources, it's known to have been a significant event for the Herglic, affecting even the relations with the Galactic Republic and other nearby species. A conflict between the Meri and the Teltior, two species native to the planet Meris. The war had significant implications for regional politics. The Waymancy Storm was a conflict sparked by the rise of a technologically advanced group with religious tendencies called the Sisters of the Machinesmith. The cult developed dangerous technology that threatened the stability of the region. It was here that the Galactic Republic stepped in. Following the end of the conflict, on the 25th anniversary, Supreme Chancellor Nagratha would give a speech remembering all those who fell in the war. Although the conflict caused significant destruction, the technology confiscated contributed to the technological advancement of the Republic. Until the year 7000 before Battle of Yavin, the Republic, but especially the Jedi Order, these being the two organizations preferred for justice of the galaxy, hadn't been challenged by direct threats. In fact, they had experienced conflicts that had challenged them, but nothing like what they would have to face from this moment on, and with the irony that their greatest threat and their greatest enemies would have been originated by bad decisions within the Jedi Order. It was in the year 7003 before Battle of Yavin that a group of Jedi within the Order would begin to experiment with forbidden knowledge. The light side of the Force didn't satisfy them, and they decided to go further, experimenting with the dark side of the Force, resulting in a second-rate schism within the Order, where the curiosity of different Jedi will lead them to a conflict despite the precautions of the Jedi Order, the war called the 100-Year Darkness. The 100-Year Darkness was a turbulent period that followed the Second Great Schism. The Dark Jedi dedicated themselves to experiments with Sith alchemy, creating monstrosities and deepening their connection with the dark side. During this time, there were numerous conflicts between the Dark Jedi and the Jedi of the Order. Again, Jedi brothers and sisters faced themselves on the battlefield. After having lived a first schism, Xendors, the Jedi Order would not be willing to live more misfortune because of a rebellion of a few. However, exterminate the Jedi traitors was not a path that the Jedi were willing to do. So the exile of this group was ordered, this being one of the decisions that would change the direction of the galactic history. Since this group of Dark Jedi would travel through the galaxy, reaching a final destination, Korriban, home of the Sith. Azjun-Tapal, Shoshan, Remulus Drapa, Karnes Moor, and Sor Susin were the Dark Jedi who arrived in Korriban. The weak decision of the Jedi Order of only exile to the culprits of the Second Great Schism and the 100-Year Darkness conflict would have an incalculable weight in history, since these fallen Jedi, hungry for forbidden power and knowledge, will find the perfect place for them. The mythical planet Korriban, giving rise to the greatest enemy that the Galactic Republic and the Jedi would know, the Sith. The pureblood Sith are an ancestral race with such a strong innate attachment on the dark side that the war is a way of life for them. It's normal. The law of the strongest and meritocracy is the government by which the pureblood Sith are governed. It was this union of the knowledge and skills of the Dark Jedi and the evil nature of the Sith that the product between these two would give rise to the greater threat that the galaxy would know. The Mandalorian Crusades were a series of expansion and conquest campaigns carried out by the Mandalorians. Starting around 7000 before Battle of Yavin, This crusade saw the Mandalorian warriors expand their influence through the galaxy, conquering wars and challenging the Galactic Republic and the Jedi. These campaigns helped forge their warrior culture and establish their reputation as formidable fighters. Back to Korriban, the reign of Marka Ragnos would mark a turning point that would branch into various conflicts. Marka Ragnos was a powerful Dark Lord of the Sith who ruled the Sith Empire for approximately a century. His reign was characterized as a golden age of the Sith. Nobody wanted to face Ragnos. The respect he imposed of his people was total. Ragnos was known for his political cunning, maintaining the balance between the Sith rivals. Under his government, the Sith Empire strengthened and developed many of the Sith dark arts. However, the expansion was not something characteristic of his reign. His death marked the end of an era and gave way to a struggle for the power that would eventually carry one of the greatest conflicts in history, the Great Hyperspace War. The Unification Wars of Koros were a series of conflicts that took place in the Koros system. These wars were led by Empress Theta, who sought to unify the 7 worlds of the system under a single government. The Great Hyperspace War is the first large-scale conflict between the Galactic Republic and the Jedi Order against the Sith. It began with some explorers of the Republic accidentally discovered the Sith Empire, taking the great surprise of an empire beyond the Republic in Korriban, where the influence of the Dark Jedi, who had hundreds of years ago had legacy there, had already been mixed with the Sith, even given a hybrid race between humans and Sith pureblood. The Great Hyperspace War was one of the conflicts that put the Republic in real danger, where the Sith, led by Marka Ragnos' successor, Nagasa Dao, carried out a Sith invasion to the wars of the Republic. The Great Hyperspace War was an event of a gigantic scale for the galaxy, where in the end, the Sith defeated were taken to the extinction by the Republic, or rather, almost extinct. Nagasa Dao, during the war, had entrusted to 2 Sith dreadnoughts a mission away from active war space. It was one of these, the Sith dreadnought Omen, commanded by Captain Sith Yaru Korsin, who after an accident was stranded on a marginalized planet, far from the civilization, isolated, without the opportunity to escape. Kesh was the new planet where this Sith group would develop their new life and would have to rebuild it far from everything they knew. The place where the Sith arrived is Kesh, a planet inhabited by its natives, the Kashiri. The arrival of Yaru Korsin and his crew was taken as a divine sign by the inhabitants. Were taking advantage of their superiority in technology and intelligence, the Sith saw this opportunity to be treated as gods, and from the situation they were living, they decided to benefit from the path. 15 years after Yaru Korsin and the Sith arrived on Kesh, the new gods of the Kashiri completely restructured their new kingdom. Everything seemed to be going perfectly in their new home. However, various situations that threatened to disturb the peace of Kesh began to arise, where as hard as it was, Yaru Korsin and the Sith would have to make drastic and severe decisions. After 25 years since the first contact of the Sith with the planet Kesh, the crew of the Omen, after living through difficult situations during the past years, would be surprised by the presence of the true enemies of the lost tribe of the Sith. Ambition and betrayals were not long in coming among the crew, where the Kashiri were able to witness that their gods, the powerful beings who had fallen from the sky, could also bleed. Within the planet Mon Cala, the civil war took place between the 2 native species, the Mon Calamari and the Quarren. The war was sparked by cultural tensions and disputes over resources. This schism was the third of its kind, where philosophical disagreements and dark side practices were the trigger for the Jedi Order to once again break apart from within. One of the characteristics of this schism was that from the beginning, its intentions were dark, resulting in an armed conflict and a tragic conclusion. Freedon Nat was a fallen Jedi who became a powerful Dark Lord of the Sith. After his Sith training, he returned to the planet Onderon and established himself as the king, introducing the Sith arts. The Peace Wars were a series of conflicts on Onderon between the inhabitants of the walled city of Isis and the wildling exiles. This war would last for hundreds of years. It was not until the intervention of Jedi, including Ulic Qel-Droma, that the conflict would end. However, something dark was waiting to be discovered. Ulic Qel-Droma's adventure on Onderon would continue, where Sith followers of Freedom Nat rebelled against the Onderon royalty and the Jedi, igniting a conflict in the city of Isis. The conflict would be joined by Nomi's Sunrider, a prodigious Jedi, where all of Ulic and Nomi's allies would play a crucial role in quelling the uprising. The Krath Holy Crusade was a conflict started by the Krath cult in the Empress Data system. Krath leaders, Sadal Keto and Alima Keto, seized power and implemented Sith practices, leading to intervention by the Republic and the Jedi. The conflict spread across several worlds and would eventually bring misfortune to the galaxy, and even the life of Jedi Ulic Qel-Droma, who would live out his worst fear, falling to the dark side and betraying the Jedi Order. Few wars have pushed the Republic and the Jedi to their limits, and this was one of them. Inspired by Sith philosophy, Exar Kun intended to return them to the Golden Age, where they could dominate the galaxy, and helped by his apprentice, the fallen Jedi Ulic Qel-Droma, along with his great army made up of Krath and Mandalorians. The Republic and the Jedi Order would have a titanic task to be able to overcome this new threat. The conflict saw the corruption of many Jedi, including their two leaders, Exar and Ulic, prodigies in the Force, but with different ambitions than those the Jedi Order satisfied. However, Nomi's Sunrider, along with her companions of the Order, would stay at bay to defeat the intentions of her old friend Ulic and the Dark Lord of the Sith, Exar Kun. In the year 3976 before Battle of Yavin, the galaxy shook at the advance of the Mandalorians, led by the enigmatic Mandalore the Ultimate. The Republic, still weak from the war caused by Exar Kun, would shudder at the Mandalorian attacks. The Jedi Council chose not to intervene. However, from the shadows would emerge one of the greatest heroes in history, Revan, a charismatic Jedi who defied the Council. Leading his faction, the Revanchists, they decided to intervene as much as possible in the war and convince the Order to attack the threat. While all this was happening, a secret organization, the Jedi Covenant, operated with ulterior motives under the Order's radar. However, this entire Mandalorian-driven war would have a dark secret, one that shocked even the most powerful Jedi in the Order. The story of the lost tribe of the Sith would continue more than 1,000 years after the story of Jaro Corsin, where a Sith named Oriel Kitai, despite being part of the elite of Kesh society, would be the victim of a plot, in good Sith style, who in her misfortune the only person who could help her is her friend, a slave named Jelf Marion, who would have a secret that could help Ori, and it would be a matter of time before all the pieces fell by their own weight. After discovering Jelf's secret, Oriel is torn between a crossroads, questioning her true loyalties, saving her family's legacy, and continue with the Sith philosophy, or listening to Jelf and giving up everything.